I'm on the phone. It didn't come up on the computer.
Andrew Eborn here from the Andrew Eborn Show. Excited. There I am indeed. I'm joined by Aline Waites. How are you?
I'm okay. Okay. Yes.
Well,
Yes.
okay. You're looking radiant.
Radiant. Oh my goodness me. Well, I did wash my hair because I was doing my dance class this afternoon, and I came out of it looking like, well, you know, more. So I washed my hair. So that's a treat for you.
Well, no, we love it. I feel spoilt, you know. I had mine cut the other day, now that the barbers have opened up.
I haven't done that yet. It's still a bit long, but I might just grow it. Because if I can, I think it looks all right.
You always look stunning every time I see you.
Oh, Andrew, you are a smooth-tongued devil, aren't you?
It has been known. It has been known. So tell me, we're in extraordinary times, and I see you posting merrily on Facebook virtually every hour, virtually. So it looks good. How have you been coping in these times?
I'm quite good at coping on my own, luckily, with Facebook, you know. But unfortunately, I haven't seen anybody. I saw my daughter-in-law last Sunday, first person I'd seen. And then yesterday I saw two people I knew yesterday, and to speak to, you know, faces. That, you know, she's wonderful. Because I like to see people's faces, because if you can't see their faces, you don't know what they're thinking. So, you know, I have terrible trouble because I sometimes make jokes on the telephone and they never speak to me again.
It is glorious, and this is what I love. I mean, finding out more about you, and I have to say, it is an absolute delight. I mean, can I say when you were born? Am I allowed to?
Who's listening? Everybody.
Nobody. So it's only you and me. So it's only a sort of private conversation. But what I love, well, you're basically.
Is anybody going to be listening?
Well,
I don't
only
know one about.
It's.
But I am very, very, very old.
Well, not at all. You were born in 1932, which is a spring chicken.
That's old.
And what I love about it, you have embraced technology in a way which would put the youngsters to shame. You know, you're Zooming and you're YouTubing and you're connecting on Facebook and your other various social media. Has tech always come easy to you?
No, I don't think so. But what happened was my son, who was, I don't know, 19 or something like that, bought an Amstrad. Now, this was 1990, I think, somewhere like that. And I saw this thing and I thought, this is fantastic. So I bought another one. I bought one as well. And then there was an opening to go and work in a place that did computers, you know, a computer place. So I went there to learn how to do a computer. So they put me in front of a terminal and said, that's it, get on with it. So that was how I learned how to do computers. Luckily, the man whose business it was then bought up a whole lot of magazines, one of which was Plays and Players. So that is how I got involved in reviewing.
Fantastic. And that's very good, because you also review for the Ham and High, don't you? You do quite a few reviews.
No, I don't anymore. I don't. I won't tell you why, because it's a sad story. I will tell you if I didn't think anybody was listening, but I think people might be.
They might close one ear. I mean, is it scandalous?
No, it's not scandalous. It's just unpleasant.
Oh, I'm sorry. You deserve pleasantness in your life, and there's certainly been an awful lot of pleasantness in your life. You have had the most glorious career so far. I've absolutely loved reading about all these things, looking at some of the old programs and so on and so forth. But you were born in Kingston.
Kingston,
you're not? Have they got that wrong? Where were you born?
Kingston upon Hull.
Oh yes, I was almost no. I hadn't forgot. It was the upon the whole bit, and you mustn't
Yeah,
catch out. Yeah, right.
yes. I caught you out on that one.
Well,
I
you
was born
see,
in
I
Kingston.
thought you were Kingston, Jamaica, but that would have been fun.
Yes, well, that is actually true, but I don't talk about it a lot. But I shall have to soon because black people make. Oh no,
Always.
I know who in Jamaica. The woman in Jane Eyre. She was born in Jamaica,
There
wasn't
you
she?
go. And Jane Eyre is a fantastic part of your sort of pedigree as well. But Kingston upon Hull, as you rightly say, what do you remember
Yeah.
of those? What do you remember of those early days?
The bombs, the bombing. Have you read my book called The Thing She That Plays the Queen?
I've read the title, Aline, but I'm looking forward. I was hoping as it was my birthday a couple of days ago. I was going to get a rare copy, so I'll have to dig that out. That'll be good because you've been prolific with your writing. Tell me what does it say in that book?
Well, the thing about that is it's in 3 parts. They're all on Amazon, and there are some of them. Well, there are 3 parts on Kindle, and then there's also the full book on Amazon. But you always have to order these things because they always print to as you must know.
Yes.
So that's what happens. But they do it quite quickly. Yes, the first part is about 2 little girls who live in Hull, and one is quite sort of middle class, and the other one is comes from the fish stocks. And but of course, the one that comes from the fish stock is the one that has all the talent, but it's the other one that has all the sort of thing, goes to drama school and all those things like me. That's me really, and they hate each other, loathe each other. Obviously, they will do. And then, so that's the first part. And then the second part is when, they're both working on getting into the business. And the last part is when they appear in a show together. But the first part is the best because that's the one about the bombing and the mother of Maxine. The little girl who is called Lil, she would be. But she always calls herself Jessie, because when you say, "What's your name?" she says, "Jessie Matthews." So, so she always calls herself Jessie. And when she grows up, she calls herself Jessica. So, yeah. So it's Jessica and Maxine, really, after the first part. But for the first part, she's not Jessie. She's Jessie Matthews.
And a lot of that is then based on your early experiences in Kingston upon Hull.
Of course it is. I mean, I just thought it was so fascinating because the interesting thing about it is that you're never afraid when you're little. And we all used to get under the billiard table. My mother and father and my grandmother, who was living with us, and my mother's friend called Helen Bangs, would you believe? We all used to get under this billiard table. And my mother said, "Well, my head's all right, but my bum's sticking out." And we laughed so much about that. So we just laughed all the time. And then my father went off and he got a shelter built in the garden, a brick one, so that we could go and be safe after that. And then he went and joined the army, which is a bit stupid, but he did that anyway.
And what did your father do for a living before the army?
He was a marble merchant, which is sort of tombstones and things. But I mean, the thing is that one had a lot of access to photographers and those sort of people because, they'd take photographs and they paint them. They used to paint them by hand,
Right,
in the green, the grass and the flowers and all that kind of thing. But it meant that he was always about, he was going lots of different places all the time. So we had a lot of friends scattered around the country and in London, and we had a lot of time in London.
and you went to Froebel School, is that how you pronounce it? Froebel Hall School?
Yeah.
School?
Verbal, yes.
Verbal, verbal. I knew there was an elongated vowel there somewhere, but verbal house school.
Yes, he was a famous, obviously, an educationalist, and this was a little school that was made by two old ladies, and I think the idea was you're supposed to love learning. It's not something that you're, but I think they had a hard time, and because it was wartime and everything, I did go away for one term to school, which I adored because I loved the idea of being, like Angela Brazil books and things like that. And anyway, I came back. This was when my father passed away, and my mother was asking me, and I was saying, well, I did this and we did that, we did all these things that we did. And she said, didn't you miss me at all? And I said, of course I missed you, because obviously that's the only answer you can give to somebody who does that. So she said, right, well, you're not going back there. So that was it. She was a great,
where did you go? There's a little delay. There's a little delay on each of our things. So if I cut across you, it's not me being rude. It's just the delay on the as the hamsters work overtime. So what I was saying is, where did you go for that little time away from the school?
I think it was called Riston Grange. It was somewhere by the sea. I think it was near Hornsey or Withensea or somewhere like that. One of those places down there. I don't remember it too much. I remember wonderful. It was about the other girls. It was so wonderful because I was an only child. And suddenly there was a family. And anyway, she was very good at manipulating people. My mother. So didn't you miss me at all? There you are. So anyway, so that was me. So I went to Frobel, and I went to Frobel until I was 16, and then I went to work at London at the university in the library, and I put on shows at our university, rag shows. And I actually did a musical there. I mean, I've only just remembered that, but I mean, there was a girl who was there. There were very few girls there at all. They were all blokes, and they were all FETG, which you probably don't know what that is, do you? Forces Educational Training Grant. They'd all come from the army. They were all old. To me, they were all old blokes. Anyway, so I put on the shows because I was a girl, and I remember one of the other girls in the library did music hall, so I got fascinated by the songs, So we did a bit of music hall, and I should have made up. We did a lot of seaside things. Anyway, I don't really remember it. Anyway, while I was there, I also wrote a play. And with the same group of people, and my play came second, but my performance in somebody else's play came first. So I thought, well, obviously I should be an actress. So I went and auditioned for the Webber Douglas, because everybody said Webber Douglas was the best, and it was. And so I joined Webber Douglas.
Well, fantastic. Do you remember what your audition piece was?
Isabella, I think, from... Now, the only trouble about being old is that you can't remember things. Oh, sorry, I'm going to shut that up because obviously the phone will do. What was my audition? I did something that was laughing as well. I don't know what it was. Oh no, that was another one. I don't know. I know there was one Shakespeare and one modern, and I don't remember what it was.
Right, but you got in phenomenally, and you won. As you said, the silver medal, and then that led to a career at the BBC, an opening at the BBC. Tell me about that.
Well, the thing that I like best of all is I like to appear in front of an audience. I like audiences. I don't like meetings. because I've been avoiding all the Zoom meetings, you see. But
Well,
one
it's
person.
not really a meeting. This is a chat, so it doesn't count as a meeting.
What?
I say this doesn't
Not,
count as a meeting. This is just a chat, isn't it? Between
oh, a meeting is, no, a formal meeting,
yes.
you know, like equity. That was so funny because we did an equity meeting and I was convinced they were coming here. I was convinced. I knew that we weren't, but couldn't get over the idea that they were coming here. And I was doing everything. I was hoovering and dusting and things and getting coffee and biscuits. And I thought, should I make a cake? Insane. I really thought, and you know, and I won't have coffee before they come because coffee breath is not pleasant for people, you know, if they haven't had coffee. Really. And I mean, that is crazy, isn't it?
Well, not really, because what
I
they
thought they were coming here as well. I must admit that. I really did. Isn't it weird?
well, no, I think it's because it's part of your preparation. When people say they're going to come and meet you, you don't expect this to be that sort of stuff. No,
I just forgot that they were. And then, of course, I couldn't get on. And then somebody turned up at the meeting who has been barred from, never mind, I won't go on about this. So it wasn't a very happy meeting.
It is extraordinary, but life is a mix. It is this rich tapestry, isn't it? Which is interesting.
It's extraordinary.
It is like,
Extraordinary.
but going back
Yeah.
to your early BBC days, I mean, you met some extraordinary characters while you were there. You worked with Sir John Gielgud. Tell me about that.
But he was adorable. He is one of the sweetest people in the world. And I worked for his brother, Val Gielgud, who was head of drama at the time. But John was most enchanting. I mean, I remember it because somebody said the other day that they were doing crossword puzzles. Well, I can't do them anymore for some reason. They don't make any sense to me anymore because I used to do them a lot. But he used to get the chat, he'd sit there with the Times and he'd start filling it in and doing all that, doing all the acting. And then you'd look at it, it was all absolute rubbish. It was one of his wonderful jokes, and just leave it lying around, you see, so we'd all get the joke. It was very fun.
That's brilliant. Do you do crosswords anymore? Do you do other puzzles? Have puzzles been a favourite part of your life?
No, I have denied puzzles. I mean, what a waste of time. You know, I don't seem to have enough time in the world. You know, I get up at 6 in the morning. And I get up at 6 and then suddenly it's 4 o'clock. How does that happen? How does it happen when I'm not actually doing anything or going anywhere? But
well,
I don't have
takes the meetings that don't happen. I know that's probably what's happening. You're in the kitchen.
Anyway, I do talk, as you say, I talk a lot on Facebook because I quite like having conversations with people, you know.
It's glorious, and you change your profile picture on a regular basis. It's almost like changing your clothes every hour. I love it.
I tell you another thing. I also like taking photographs, but the trouble is that I was the only person here, so I was taking photographs of me all the time. But I learned a lot by doing that. I learned a lot about, you know, taking photographs because this little phone I've got, I talk by the phone. But it's what's it called? What is it called when you've got so many things in a camera? And it's got more of those anyway. It's especially for taking photographs, and tells you all the time what to do. You know, it would stand a bit further back or go a bit further up and take it and do this, and you know, it tells you all the things to do as you're doing it, which is nice.
Oh, but it's glorious, and I love your photos because now that you've been able to go through your place as well, you're digging up some wonderful old photos of your early days as well.
Yes, well, that is because because we were supposed to put photographs on of theatre things because of trying to get some money. Not that it's going to do the actors very much good, is it really?
Well, that's the problem. I mean, they announced this 1.5 zillion, you know, but the real question is, how's it going to happen?
No. So anyway, never mind. I feel very sad about them because it's, you know, I'm trying to go. I'm trying to do something. I want to get somebody to come and clean for me. I wonder if I could ask somebody to come and do it, because I don't like cleaning very much, and I did that a lot of that, because the first thing you do is they say clean everything with bleach. So I had a big sort of thing bleach made so that I could clean everything inside, and the next day it was all filthy, because because that's what happens. If you start cleaning, you've got to do it all the time.
That
So,
is so talk
and,
the BBC. So you met some wonderful characters, including Sir John Gielgud and his artificial, the original fake crossword, which I love as a story. That's got to be good. And thinking about your first TV experiences, because you were involved with all sorts of television along the way, playing all sorts of wonderful characters, and Mrs. Dale's Diary. Talk to me about
yes, Dale's Diary. Yes. Well, I started with Mrs. Dale's Diary. I said no. I said no to the BBC rep because I didn't want to do it. And the second prize was £25, and I'd rather have had the 25. And I said, please, can I have the £25 instead? Anyway, they thought that wasn't a good idea. And my father by this time had had a stroke, because he had a stroke. And so he was up in Yorkshire and he could listen to the radio, So that was why I did it in the end. But it was very good at first because I was a freelance. So I could take time off and go and do other stuff, which was good tellies and theatre, which is what I really wanted to do. So that was good. And then it was not until the Jessie days that I was actually put under contract, in a permanent contract. And then I was sort of stuck with it. But that was only for, I don't know, six years or something like that.
We'll say only for 6 years. I mean, that's a tremendous career.
Oh, I know. I've been in it for ages. Being, just coming and doing bits of it, and then, going off and doing something else. Because the character wasn't in it all the time. I mean, because I knew the writers, so if I got a job, I could just tell the writers and they'd write me out, so that was fine.
It's a lovely way of doing things, isn't it? If you know the writers and say, I need a holiday, or I need to go off, can you make sure that Gwen, wasn't it? Gwen was the daughter of Mrs. Dale.
No. Oh, I did get holidays. Yes, I did get holidays. I went. Yes, I was called back once from St. Anton. I can't remember why. Anyway. And I lost my passport when I went to Spain. And I traveled all the way down to Calais without a passport, pretending to be Italian. I don't know why. And then I went, and then I got across the channel by using my BBC club pass. So BBC club. So they let me across the channel.
It's a good passport to everywhere, the BBC, isn't it? Now, do you think we could lower your camera a little bit so we can see you in all of your glory? That's better. There you go. I can see you in all of your glory.
What are you looking for?
Even better. Even better.
Which are you wanting?
No, that's perfect. That's fantastic. I love it. It's got to be good.
It's probably got a double chin now, have I?
What's
double
that?
chin.
Oh, no, you haven't got, no, not at all. I was just saying, you look glorious. You always look glorious. A ray of sunshine, which is wonderful. In addition, Aline, you were also working on the stage as well, and working in several different places. Yeah. Talk to me about that.
I got involved with a company called Barry O'Brien Company, and I did rep in Bournemouth and Worthing and Torquay,
Bangor,
and
Northern Ireland.
Shanklin. Oh, Bangor, Northern Ireland. Yes, that was strange. That was a typical, very typical story, that one, because they took this. I was being Miss Gwen of the Dales, of course. That was always the problem, I would have been anyway, Gwen of the Dales, which drove me insane. And so there I was, and I went to Bangor with these people, and one of the guys had a Rolls Royce, an open Rolls Royce. So when I played the mermaid, I played Miranda. and I was dressed in a tail and a long blonde wig, and I sat on the back of this Rolls Royce and was driven around Bangor. Bloody cold it was as well. Anyway, that was one thing, but they didn't pay anybody. They paid me because I was in the same digs as the bosses, you see, and they paid me, but they didn't pay and I had got them the other actors because they said they wanted them. So I found them their company, and they didn't pay them. So I called a meeting and I said, you've got to pay the actors, and they said, why? And I said, well,
why?
Why? Because they got to eat. Why should they want to eat? Why should they want to eat? I don't understand. And I said, well, and they got to pay their digs. And they said, nobody with any sense would go abroad without taking enough money to keep them going while they're away. So then we called the meeting, and he explained to the actors that he'd run out of money. And the actors said, oh, what a shame. And they didn't, they said they went on working because actors are stupid. So I left. I gave in my notice and I went back home. And I went to equity because you had to leave so much money without equity or something. And they said they hadn't had any. And I went to the, I don't know, the other place anyway. And they hadn't left any deposit anywhere. So there they were, stuck in Ireland. Anyway, they did get back. Somebody paid them. I think it must have been equity brought them back. I never saw the other people again. But isn't it dreadful?
Did they blame?
I mean, it's things like actors shouldn't need money. What do they need money for? It's extraordinary.
And that's the problem with the profession, isn't it? And it happens not just with actors, but also musicians have a similar sort of thing where people assume you're having fun. It's not a job and they don't need to pay you. It's outrageous.
I know. And working is, you work bloody hard, It's not fair at all. But that's why we're making such a scene about the money, because actors weren't getting anything. But now they're still not getting anything because it's going to the museums, and
And it's a big issue. We come on to equity and the role that you played a vital role that you played as part of that fighting for rights for actors. But talking about roles, yeah. I mean, you had a few favourite roles. You like playing Marilyn Monroe, didn't you?
I played Marilyn Monroe, yes, and I wrote 2 plays about Marilyn as well. I played her in the Whitehall. Yeah, and we did the Bush Theatre. It wasn't, in the West End, it was the Bush. And in those days, the Bush was very good because it was run by 2 people. It was run by a producer and the man who did all the technical stuff. And they paid the actors, right? Then they got a grant, right? So they immediately employed several more administration people and stopped paying the actors. Now, how about that?
There's a pattern here, isn't there?
It's absolutely ludicrous. Yes, ridiculous. So when the BBC, when I left the BBC, they wanted to carry on, not Mrs. Dale's Diary, but they wanted to carry on A Doctor's Wife. And I said, not me, no, I don't really want to do that. And then I went to, this is the saddest story of all. I went in, oh yes, they stopped, they wanted, so I had a television to do on the last week of the Dales. And the guy, who's a horrible, horrible, horrible person, said, we won't release you. No, we're not going to release you. So you can't do that. And so I spoke to Jill Hyam and the other people who were doing the script, Jeffrey Siegel, and they all said, well, of course we can write you out that morning. It was only a morning, but I couldn't do the television without doing that particular thing. And so I made several things. I went to see a man called Hallam Tennyson. who was the grandson or the great-grandson of Alfred Lord Tennyson. And he was the person who was running the drama department. So first of all, I went to him and I said, well, you know, you've stopped me from doing my television. And he said, no, you haven't. He denied the whole thing. He said, of course you must do the television. That's ridiculous. So I said, well, the thing is, I don't really want to go on being an actress in radio. And I would like you to go on the director's course. And he sort of laughed at me and said, no, not with those eyes. You can't possibly, wouldn't waste that. And he did all that stuff, you know, and I wanted to kill him. And unfortunately, about 10 years later, somebody did.
What happened?
Yes.
What happened?
Well, I'm not sure what the story was, but I got it. When I was with the Ham and High, and it was in the Ham and High, and he'd been on Hampstead Heath and had picked up a rent boy. And boy, we don't know. He was never found, the boy. But he stuck a dagger in his throat. So he was murdered.
Wow. And
yes.
And the Ham and High. I mean, that would be.
Maybe I should tell you, because obviously nobody else picked it up. It was only in the Ham and High. But if you look at Hallam Tennyson death in your, you know, Google, you will see the story. It's there.
Good heavens. So, I mean...
Anyway, he was the one who wouldn't employ me as a director because I was too beautiful, he said. So that word has entered into the blackness of my soul forever. So when people say my face is my fortune, I said my face is my misfortune.
Right. And
so that,
isn't it? I mean, now we're starting to get that. If anything, it's gone the other way. We're starting to respect people for being people, and you can have a talent, and there can be intelligence, and so on and so forth.
Yes, I know. In those days, no. And of course, I didn't go to Oxford and Cambridge, which everybody else did. So, and I also was cross because of my friend Jane Morgan. She was Jane Graham then. And I thought, well, that's awfully rude to her, you know, because she was a producer. Why do you say things like that? And, you know, he said, you know, you've got to look like Audrey Cameron. You know, I don't know whether you know Audrey Cameron. She was a very big, heavy lady. And she was, anyway, there we are. So that was the reason I wasn't. So that was what stopped me. So then I got offered, when the day was finished, I got offered from Peter Hall from Royal Shakespeare to go and do PR for Royal Shakespeare, and also got another offer from Doctor Who to go and do a PR for Doctor Who. So I thought, well, that can't be a very good job, you know, because they're just giving it to me. So I said no. So anyway, I started doing my own show, my own company. So that was what happened, and that was, you know, the main part of my life. And it was something I did without any money, and I never really earned any money, you know, except for, you know, bits and pieces. But we made sure that the actors got paid, maybe very little, but something, and they, you know, paid their grocery bill. I don't know what he paid, but anyway, yeah.
But it is important.
So,
I mean,
course as well.
Yeah, and the TV side, just before we leave that and come on to Abu Dhabi, the basic idea, you also
Abu Dhabi.
That's the Flintstones. I was halfway to a Flintstone, wasn't I? Abu Dhabi, it's got to be good.
Ted Willis, who was accidentally nearly had a company with Ted Willis, which I can talk about later. Ted Willis used to call it Abu Dhabi.
Abu Dhabi, well, you're sort of halfway there. It's that old joke about the difference between Dubai and Abu Dhabi, isn't it? It's the Dubai's had Abu Dhabi do, absolutely.
Yeah. We did a show called Abu Dhabi do.
Oh, you did? There you go. See?
Yes, Shaftesbury, Abu Dhabi do. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. But you did. I mean, from the telly side, I mean, did you find it too much of a chore? Was it? Did it stop being exciting working in all these different ongoing programs? Because you did a live broadcast as well, didn't you, for one of these shows?
What are we talking about?
So when
Live?
the live transmission of the Puppet Master, I think it was.
Oh, that wasn't live. No.
Was it not?
Oh, that was no. It was terribly organized, and because it was right at the very beginning, you know, it was the beginning of television, really, and it was terribly organized, and you know, you had to move in a certain way and move very slowly and things like that. Yeah.
Well, we had to correct the information then out there on the interweb, because they say that in 1951, the very first, your debut performance was a live transmission.
Oh no, it wasn't 1951. I mean, I was at the Webber Douglas in 1951.
Yeah, no, I told you. Never let the truth stand in the way of a good story. This is what it's
Exactly. I did do it. I remember now. I did do a thing. I did do a show called Aline Waites Tells You What to Do with Raffia. That was
what would you tell me to do with raffia?
Making mats and baskets and things. But it was really strange because this was the beginning. This was not the beginning of television. It was the beginning of ITV.
Right.
And the people who are on it were all, you know, either BBC people or they didn't know anything at all. So it was a very strange thing. And that was the thing. And it wouldn't have been in the Radio Times. I did say it was in the Radio Times. I think it was in something called the TV Times,
right.
Maybe.
Yeah, no.
Something like that.
And so
it wasn't
1959 is when they claimed it was. Looking at the, but we're getting corrected because it's out there. And what I love about this is that it's the chance to set the record straight. Because so often, repeat a lie often enough, it becomes the truth. You know, that's what they say. So often in people's history, they will turn around and say, well, the first live transmission in 1959, Aline was there, and you say it never happened. It was never live.
1959, you said.
Yes, 1959.
I thought you said 1951.
I did, but I misread my notes.
No wonder I was confused. Yes, 1959. It would have been ATV. I don't know. The Puppet Master wasn't live. Definitely not.
Okay. Well, we should get that corrected as well as my handwriting.
And I remember there's somebody called Jennifer, and she and I did the whole thing together. And I met Jennifer many times afterwards in television, and I have no idea where she is or what her name was. I must have known at the time, but I don't know her now.
And you also played, as you say, the nurse in Emergency Ward 10. Did you enjoy one of the first hospital?
Joan Edwards, I was in Emergency Ward 10. And then I got an offer to tour in Moon is Blue, which was a pretty good job. So I left Emergency Ward 10. And there was another reason why I left Emergency Ward 10, which I am not going to repeat.
Oh, I love this. So what was that reason?
I will tell you privately sometime.
what I love about this, Aline, we get listen, the private conversation. I'm going to have to go back and sort of say, "Oh, do you remember when you said you were going to tell me this? You tell me that." And there's lots of little stories, which are going to run and run and run. I love it.
There are lots of stories that I'm not about to tell you. I mean, I do know that my friend Shani might be watching, because I told her I was doing it because I had to, you know, because yesterday, my friend Frances, who died, Frances Chuka, you heard of her? And she died a short while ago, beginning of the corona thing. And we went yesterday with Shani to look at some things, you know. So I came back with loads of rubbish, you know, I didn't really want, but we were trying to get rid of a lot of her things, you know, because she hoarded things. And so I came back with a lot of knives and forks, and I don't know why she had so many knives and forks. You know, I mean, we didn't have all that many parties, but anyway.
I think
so that was
lots of stuff.
So Shani was there, and I was saying can't do, because she wanted to give me something, I don't know, a dress rail or something, and I said, well, I can't do it tomorrow because I have an appointment with my friend Andrew.
Oh, lovely. So, I'm sorry to interrupt your other one. So I'm going to ask you just to tilt your camera down again. It keeps wanting to go and show me the lovely. That's it. Fantastic. There we are. That's the one. Sort of right down there.
Did you see more when I do that?
Tilt it a little bit towards you. Tilt it a little bit towards you, so it goes There we go.
Now, you see, if I was taking my photograph, I would have put it there.
No, that's perfect. Now that's if you can keep it there. That is
But
a
I
wonderful shot.
my arm cold.
You're holding it with your hand, are you?
Yes.
For heaven! Oh, you poor thing. No, this will be like torture. Well, tell me if you need a break at any stage.
Hold it with my hand.
Can you balance it somewhere?
Is this a good place to be? I mean, is this a good place?
Yeah, I don't have a light behind you. I think
come up on the computer.
Yeah,
So
that's a good idea.
I put it on the phone.
Yeah, if you put it, that's it. There we go. Let's have a look. See that works well.
Headphones.
What?
Come on the computer.
It can
I
come
tried it.
Let's have a look. We can do it on the computer. I can even pause and we can go for a commercial break, even though we don't have commercials. Well, we set up the technical things. Or actually, we can watch you do the technical things.
Free anti-aging is the only thing that's there. There's radiotimes.com and Stylist Daily. There's absolutely nothing from you at all.
Oh, right. Okay. Nothing on the computer. Well, I'll tell you what we'll do. I'll put it on. Let's have a look. I can send you an email. I'll pause it for a moment, Aline, and I'll sort out these. We'll be back after.
Yeah, right.
Here we go.
There we are. Now then.
We're back, and look, I can see you in all your glory. That's much better. Beautifully perched. I love it. Thank you. I want to glory. No, I love it.
I love it.
Very good.
Yellow dress, yes, I like it very much. I put a new one on yesterday, and Shawnee thinks I should have worn that, but I want to wear my favourite dress, which is a very old and quite nice, and yellow.
Oh, I love it. Sunshine yellow. It goes with the sunflowers behind me. I thought we have a pattern going on here.
Yes, sunshine.
Yeah, so absolute sunshine is fantastic. And talking of sunshine, you moved from the world of television, live or not live, and you started to set up your own thing, because those sort of days, it was quite tricky. So talk me through that. First of all, tell me how you came up with the name.
Well, when I was at the Webber Douglas, I used to do every Monday. There's a thing called impro, where you were left to do your own thing. So I used to write a little with my friends. You know, we used to write a thing about what we were doing, make a parody. We were doing Merry Wives, so we did our version of it. You know, I was Mistress Quickly, I think. But every week we did this. So I knew who could sing and who could dance, and I'm very interested in, people. That's my thing. I like is people. So one of the people who was very good at dancing and singing was an Australian called David Ryder Futcher. And when after he left the drama school, he started a company supplying actors as cleaners. And he did terribly, terribly well and made a lot of money because he was quite good with money. So, but while we were there, we did a version of the Abba Dabba Honeymoon, about the monkeys, the song. And we did a version of that. And oddly enough, the other two people who were part of directors of Abba Dabba, there was Barrymore Brown, who was the BBC producer of Film Night, and his wife, Janet Browning. So there were all those B's. There was an A and there was a D. So oddly enough, Abba Dabba seemed quite a good name. So David and Janet was a performer, a very wonderful performer. She had a voice like Karen Carpenter, that kind of thing.
Beautiful.
And she did Abba Dabba with David, and then because and then I did. Oh yes, I kept getting these little jobs. This was while I was in the Dales. They kept asking me to do charities, and do music hall things. And of course, my father was a piano player. And when he was in the art, he was every night something awful. He used to play for all the people. And he used to sing and things as well. So there was a song he used to sing to me called Poor Little Ugly Duckling, which was not the one that Donny Kaye did. It was not that. And I thought he meant me, because I always thought I was ugly. I always thought I was ugly, you know. And that was why it was sort of strange for that Hallam Tennyson to say that, because nobody had ever said that about me before, you know, said that I was beautiful. I didn't believe in that. So anyway, that was that. So so I did all these things, and then there was one at Hampstead that I went to and did several of them. And I was asked to put on some shows at the Green Man for the Greenwich Theatre. And I gathered my own group of people to be in it, you know, Kent Bacon, Ray Brown, Gordon Griffin, and Janet. And so gradually I had built up this thing. And then I was asked, Janet and I were asked to put on, to look after Liz Morgan had this Hampstead music hall, and she asked us to look after it while she went and did her sitcom in Wales for the summer. So we did it. And the first night, there were 6 people in the audience. So from then on, we decided that we would find a way of filling a house full of people to see shows. We did, of course we did. And by the time Liz came back, they were queuing outside. So she was stunned by that. And she said, "Thank you very much. Goodbye," you see. So we'd done what she wanted us to, and now she didn't want to have us around anymore. She was one of those people who, when she put on a show, she always put herself on last, because she was always the star, you know, which I thought was not right, not correct. So when we found a place in Camden Town called the Mother Red Cap, which is a lovely sound, lovely. And we had this room above the Mother Red Cap, and we charged something like 50p or something for people to come and see the show. But that was luckily next to the Labour Party headquarters. Right. So we started getting all the politicians, because if a Labour politician came, then the Conservative Party would come as well, because you know about that.
Yes.
So we were full of that. And also 2 of our original people, Gay Brown and Ken Baker, just come back from Chicago, and they'd got to know the people in the Laugh-In. So they came as well. So and then when the press came and they said, "Guess who was there last night? Ian Mikado or Archie Johnson or something," and it was good publicity, you know. So we had fantastic publicity. And then this guy arrived called Ray Ackerman, who had taken over stadia all over the place, and he had to have a pub. And so he bought this pub in Gray's Inn Road called the Pinder of Wakefield. And the back room he turned into a theatre. Not terribly well, because we had to redo it, obviously. But he was divine, lovely man. And so we moved to the Pinder. And everybody with him.
Which is now the Water Rats, isn't it?
It's now the Water Rats, I know. Anyway, so that was, so that we were the Pinder until 1988. So it's from 1970 to 1988, we were at the Pinder. Yeah.
And were those some of the happiest moments? I can see your whole body language changes when you talk about that sort of time. It sounds like television was a bit of a drag, and they wouldn't let you do what you wanted to do, but the live shows.
Yeah, the live show, the audience. But you see, I wasn't in the shows, but that wasn't the point. What I wanted to get people, I'd have to sort of I chose the people very carefully and worked on them and saw how wonderful they could be, you know, because people can be wonderful. And of course, when the Water Rats were then, Jimmy Perry came, you know, so he picked out a few, like Ruth Mallet, for instance. We reinvented that character, that red Welsh character.
Right. Heidi High, absolutely. She was fantastic. So how did you reinvent her? What did you do? What did you do to reinvent her?
Well, she came, first of all, almost straight from RADA, and she used to sing terrible songs like My Hero, things like that. And she was, I mean, she had the same singing teacher as me, actually, because she came from Hull as well. But it just made me laugh. She made me laugh because the way she was singing. And I don't know, and it took a long time. And then, you know, and she was married to Philip Maddock, you see, who is a very big Welsh actor. He was a lovely, lovely guy. And so sort of the Welsh crept in, you know, and then became a thing. And then people started writing things, you know, for Welsh people. And we would pick, what we often used to do is find a song that if somebody liked a song very much, and their favourite character, and we put the two together, things like that. So we had Christopher Rowan singing in top hat, white hat and tail, he calls me his own Grace darling, he says I am his pet, things like that. It was hilarious.
Well, fantastic.
But the thing was, it was nothing like anybody else ever did. And so it really upsets me, you know, when people say, oh, old time musical. No, it wasn't. It was nothing like what anybody else did.
But you were prolific, weren't you? I mean, you were writing material, again, if the...
Every weekend, yes, we would do a production number, and we changed the show every 2 weeks.
Wow.
So I added a new Shayna, which was a very good thing because it got everybody working together. So it was a thing. So, and I would work it out and work out the choreography and everything. So we did.
Fantastic. And you also did Downstairs at Kennedy's on the King's Road.
That was also Ray Ackerman. But we did lots of other things apart from that. But Kennedy's was good because we were sort of rather keen on Shirley Williams.
Right.
And Shirley Williams started this, you know, Gang of Four thing.
Yeah.
And so everybody was involved with that, especially Ray and, you know, the other guy that he was working with. And Ray at that time was running all the restaurants in London. It was extraordinary. Yeah. Anyway, so we got this Kennedy's, and we were downstairs at Kennedy's, and we used to do shows at 11:30 during the week. I never quite worked that out. And then on Sunday, some weekends, we did 2 shows, one at 8 and one at 11:30. Now, I don't know why we did the 8 o'clock ones at the weekends. I can't quite work that out. Anyway, we did. And it was lovely. And, you know, it's one of those champagne evenings, you know, every night. You know, it was absolutely brilliant. And I wasn't...
And as I say, Aline, your whole body language changes, even just recounting those sort of tales. I can tell it's obviously a wonderful, wonderful... It was your favourite times, yeah?
Yes, it was, definitely.
And you also had Underneath the Arches as well, and a number of different venues in Southwark.
After the Pinder, that was another sad story about, you know, leaving the water rat.
Can you tell that tale? Is that one sad tale you can tell?
No. Well, all right. I will tell it. What happened was that Courage were the brewers, and they had. No, I can't tell you. I can't. Sorry, because it might be, you know, because it's about somebody who did something nasty, illegal, and criminal.
Okay.
So I can't tell you. No, I will tell you some other time.
We're going to have such a long conversation after this. I love it. There's going to be a whole new, the under the counter version.
There's not here. So
I understand. We don't want people who are living, and we don't want people to be badly affected. But there are things that happen in this business, which
I know nasty things can happen. Yeah,
we can have that conversation. No, I understand. I respect that, and I think it's good that you're sharing what you're sharing. But so you did Under the Arch. You worked from Southwark for a long period of time, 1991 to 96. I mean, that's a big chunk of time. If my research.
Oh, yeah. That was after the. But I mean, things that happened before then, much better things, because we had this strange, and he won't mind me calling him strange, Danish person called Per Brink Abrahamsen, who was doing his degree, I think it was probably his master's, on music hall. And he went to the players and said, "Will you help me?" And they said they couldn't be bothered, you know, so go away, go away. So anyway, he came to me and I said, that was wonderful. I'd love to do it, you know. So we worked on it a lot and got excited. And he became our agent. So for about several years, we spent half the year in Denmark, which was amazing. And that was really nice too. And we did other things. I did Princess birthday party. I did a long tour of that in all, you know, in all the schools and everything. I wasn't in it. I wasn't in any of it. I just occasionally would be in something, very occasionally, but not a lot. No, I sort of got out of the habit of being in things. But I liked seeing other people develop. It was very exciting, very exciting.
Well, as you say, you developed lots of shows yourself. I mean, very topical shows as well. Did you like that sort of political satire of the day?
Well, this happened. Yeah, the satire at the Kennedys, of course, we did. We had several scenes, yeah, like in a review, we had several scenes, but they changed every day. You know, there'd be one with two Arab ladies stealing things from Harrods, which was what they used to do in those days. We can't do it now. We had a Margaret Thatcher and Valerie Giscard d'Estaing, you know, that one. And we had all these different things. But every day I used to be glued to LBC, and we used to change it every single day. We would do new things in the show. It was really exciting. But after 100 performances, everybody was exhausted, so we had to stop. But we did a few extra bits there, you know, sort of cabaret stuff. I like cabaret. I'm very fond of cabaret because so many people are so bad at it. And then, yes, and then the 1980s, there was a sort of a little strange thing, because I was in Denmark quite a long time, because we did seasons there. We did 3 summer seasons in two in Elsinore, Galileo it was, near Elsinore, and then one in Copenhagen, in Frederiksberg. And I had to look after this one, and I was away for a bit too long, and I left other people in charge. And unfortunately, the people in charge did not know about going out and getting an audience in, and a lot of money went there. And they resigned, and that was okay. I won't tell you the name, but I have discussed it with one of them since then, so that's all right. We sorted that out. But they did resign and disappeared for, you know, like forever. And then, so we've got the money back. We were sure we were out of, you know, we had lost money. We had a debt, but I mean, we got that back very quickly. You know, any problem at all. You know, it was easy.
Well, it's easy. I mean, this is the great thing about it, because when you're running, I mean, people say show business, there's 2 sides of it. There's the show and there's the business. And so often when you're a self-employed actor or you're doing your own thing, people love the show bit, but the business side escapes people. What are the secrets? How did you get yourself an audience, and how did you get money?
I'll just tell you a little story that made me laugh so much. When we left the Mother Red Cap, one of the actors decided he was going, because he loved the Red, he was going to put on a show, right? So he got the actors and he told them he was going to pay them all this money, you know, as they always do. And he forgot to count the pianists in, or somebody to do the lighting, you know. And definitely the audience, because nobody came at all, you know. And he put on this show, of course, there was no money at all. So, but I mean, that is it. He just didn't think. Well, you know, if you've got a show, you've got to have somebody to watch it. There's no point in doing. Anyway, that was just one thing that happened. But that sort of thing happens all the time. Somebody did a reading of one of my plays very recently, and he rang me up on the day. And I was in America, and he rang me up on the day saying, "Can you get me an audience?" Because he hadn't got an audience. And I got a few people by telephone.
I would say your address book, it must be pretty admirable as well, though. I mean, and as you say, that's what you did. You built an audience each time you do something, because you work on that sort of basis. And having the
I don't, not so much. I mean, because I don't do it anymore. You know, I haven't done it because Robin got sick. I mean, Robin didn't come into the business. I mean, he was in the business, and I knew him since I was That's a funny story as well. I knew him since I was at the Weber Douglas, but he was left. He'd left. You know who Robin is? Robin Hunter.
Robin Hunter, absolutely. He was part of your life for 20 years.
That's right. And his father was a movie star and things, so he was brought up in Hollywood. But he was just the nicest person in the world. I mean, you couldn't believe that somebody. I don't think everybody else thought he was nice, but he was certainly nice to me.
And so
he always put me.
Met him right in the early days. How did that come about? When was your very first meeting with Robin?
That's a funny story. It is a funny story. Because he was, I think he was, I can't remember all that well. I mean, this is just me sort of, remembering. Maybe I'm misremembering, but anyway, there was this person called Robin Hunter, who was the son of a movie star, and who was used to have a lot of lovers, right? And there was a bit of a predator, take girls and things. And everybody said, oh, you mustn't have anything to do with him. So obviously when he said, come on with me and we'll do something, I can't remember what it was. And I said, okay. And then he said, towards the end of the evening, he said, my parents are away. I have this flat in Jermyn Street, my parents' flat, but they're away in America. Will you come back with me? And I said, no. And he said, oh, I put clean sheets on the bed. Now, that to me, that was honesty, and I appreciate honesty. I didn't go back with him, obviously, but that to me was very important. So I knew that he was incapable of telling a lie.
How old were you at that stage?
I would have been about 19.
Right. Because he was born.
He would have been 23 or 24.
He was born 2 days after my mother, because his birthday was the 4th of September, 1929. Yes. And my mother's was the 2nd of September, 2029. So
anyway, yes, but he was a lovely, lovely man, really, And as I say, the great thing about him was that he couldn't tell a lie. The worst thing about him was that he couldn't keep money. He was to give things away all the time. And when he started getting his pension, they used to go to the post office to collect it, and there were always people waiting outside for him, and he'd get his money. That's the one. And I don't know. I mean, he was just amazing as a person.
But to have 20 years,
the funniest person I have ever known.
Right. And a 20-year relationship, longer than he had 2 marriages beforehand. He was married right up until death, wasn't he?
They never got married. The divorce papers came through, and I said, "Oh, can't be bothered." I got married when I was very young.
Was it a profession, or who did you marry?
I married somebody called Peter Noel Cook, not Peter Cook, I think. And I can't talk about him because he is still alive. Okay. But I have to say that I made the decision then and there that I would never, ever do it again, because it was the 1950s, right? And I thought, well, I better get a divorce. And I went to the lawyer and I told him the reason that I wanted the divorce. And he said, oh, that doesn't count. That's just married life. And I remember trying to buy him a present. I wanted to buy him something. And in those days, you used to buy something and you would pay it off in sections, every month or something.
HP, hire purchase, that sort of thing, wasn't it?
And I bought him this present. Well, I was trying to buy him this present. And they said, you have to get his consent because he's got to sign it before you can do this, because he's a man and he's your husband. So that was another reason why I decided I would never get married again. So Robin actually proposed to me on his knee in the pub down the road on Valentine's Day. I don't even remember the year, but it was sort of, before 24 years before he died. He got all the divorce papers from with Amanda, and they all read it, and I said no. So we didn't. So he remained married to Amanda, basically.
Right.
But we had to do a lot of work on Amanda because she was in. Oh, I'm here again. I'm going again. In trouble with. She was in Coronation Street. She was a lesbian, and they wanted and we had to stop them from publishing anything. Yeah.
No,
Another nasty bit, but I mean, I didn't mind that, because I rang up all the newspapers and told them all off, because they were horrible. They were really.
And your experience with the media, I mean, we often talk about this with as you've seen, as people come on the show, they talk about the press, and the press are extraordinary because they build people up and then they like to knock them down a lot. And I think the relationship with the press, it's all about the sensational, isn't it? It's not, it's a P.T. Barnum.
Stories, yes, of course they do. And in fact, there was one guy, Michael Thornton. Do you know Michael Thornton?
Yeah.
He had a thing called in the Daily Mail. I can't remember the name of it now. But anyway, he had a thing in the Daily Mail, and he loved Robin. So he hated Amanda, and he hated Maria Charles, and he would say anything nasty about him that he possibly could. So he wanted all the stuff. And he said he would write a book about me, and I said, no, thank you very much, because he liked me for some reason. And he adored Robin. But, I think he's still around somewhere, so maybe I shouldn't have mentioned his name.
Oh no, they're all going to come out. As I say, our list of things today.
No, I know, it's terrible, isn't it?
It's enormous. This is what sells the books, This is got to be good. So what was the name of the pub? What was the name of the pub where Robin proposed?
I started writing it a bit because somebody actually asked me. It was this guy who was actually one of the directors of Abba Dabba until, the disaster when they lost all the money. He started writing his life story. And then he said, no, it was somebody else who said, why did you do Abba Dabba? That's right. So I started talking about it. I'm going to have to put the battery into my phone. Hang on a minute.
That's all right. I'll pause it for a little bit. So just while we're doing this, Aline is dancing around her glorious mansion to find a suitable place to join us. And you've frozen for the time being. So we're going to go to a little break. And straight after the break, we're going to come back with a lot more exciting stories, some of which we might be able to tell you. So come and join us after the break in the next exciting half when Aline will be revealing all sorts of things about her fascinating career. We'll see you then. Take care.